Why should you never strive for perfection as an entrepreneur? I'm going to answer that for you right now on the Unlock Success Podcast.
This is the Unlock Success Podcast. We're helping entrepreneurs around the world dive deep into the keys you need to shatter excuses, believe in yourself, and help you achieve your highest goals. Here's your host, 8-figure entrepreneur and the living legend of internet marketing, Anthony Morrison.
Hey, what's up, everybody? Anthony Morrison here, and welcome to another episode of the Unlock Success Podcast. Look, the goal of this podcast is to give you all the tools that you need to grow your business. And by tools, I don't simply mean the methods or the tactics that we teach in some of our other channels and our YouTube videos and such. Instead, we want to use this podcast to give you the mindset tools that you need to truly master your business and become the type of entrepreneur and the type of person you have the potential to become. And today, we're talking about the difference between greatness and perfection. So often, even though we know perfection isn't truly attainable, it's not a truly attainable goal, we allow it to cripple us to the point where we can't even complete our most important tasks. The need for constantly being perfect is so detrimental, right? People will even list it as a weakness during a job interview, okay? Today, I want to help you shoot for a different goal. And that goal is greatness. You might be thinking, great, Anthony, you went from one crazy word to another. But my goal in today's episode is kind of to carefully tease out the differences between these two and to show you how you can strive for greatness rather than perfection and how it will radically transform the way you see your business. We'll discuss all of that today on this episode. But first, listen, if you're new here and you feel like this is exactly the type of content you need to change and to grow your business for the better, right? If you happen to be tuning in on YouTube, hit that like button, hit the subscribe button, turn on the notifications, and make sure that you never miss an episode. Look, that way you'll know exactly when I post one of these episodes, and you can be one of the first ones to leave a comment. I always look at my most recent comments to find out what I should talk about next. So there's a benefit to that. So let's get into today's topic. Listen, if you've ever used the phrase, "it's just not ready yet," then this message is for you. I hear this from my students all the time. I can't release my course. It's just not ready yet. I can't run my webinar. It's not ready yet. Listen, the difference between wanting something to be great and wanting it to be perfect, there is a difference, okay? And what's crazy is this. We know that nothing is perfect in life. Even if the systems you have in place look great, that doesn't account for all the problems that could arise that are out of your control. So we know perfection isn't a tangible reality, but yet we still strive for it. Why is that? I think the reason for this is we don't have a legitimate alternative, right? We think the alternative to perfection is being just kind of good enough. And good enough, honestly, doesn't sound very good, does it? Like, when would you ever tell anybody, I just want to be good enough, right? So what should we strive for? Well, as I already mentioned, I believe the word we should strive for is greatness, right? But let's break down what that actually means and what I mean by that. Greatness is a type of mastery over what you're doing, but more importantly, it's the ability to pivot at a moment's notice. So let's go back to the example before where my students tell me that their course isn't ready yet, so they don't want to launch it, right? I'll typically ask them a question like this. Do you know what you do if someone complains about this? Or maybe this or that thing in a certain module, right? Or I'll say, do you know what you'll do if the tech goes down for a few days? Like if everything in this thing breaks for a few days? And they typically answer yes to these questions because they've thought all of these scenarios through. And if they do answer yes, then I tell them, you're ready. Not because their course is perfect. Remember, that's impossible. But because when an unexpected flaw hits, they'll know how to pivot. They'll know exactly what they need to do. And that skill set is a whole lot more valuable and realistic than an attempt at being perfect all of the time. And I'm serious. There's real danger in feeling this need to be perfect, right? If you're of the mindset that your course can't be released until it's perfect, that bleeds into the idea that your webinar will never be perfect, your ads will never be perfect, your emails will never be perfect, your Instagram, you see what I'm saying? Nothing's ever perfect. Another way to look at this is the idea like maybe that greatness is consistency, right? Again, I know consistency doesn't sound as amazing as perfect, right? But I'd argue it's actually maybe more important. I mean, just think about it in terms of relationships. I'd much rather spend every day with my wife, living with each other's quirks and flaws, than to literally just see each other once every 2 years for a perfect date. See, consistency will help you build something great, something much more than striving for perfection will, right? So let me recap my encouragement for you, okay? Instead of focusing on making something perfect, focus on making it great. And by greatness, I don't mean something that's just good enough. By great, I mean the ability to pivot and solve problems quickly, okay, when they come your way. If you're ready for those unknowns, you're ready to go, you're ready to launch, you're ready to be an entrepreneur. And there's no more perfect example than my brother. Love him to death. Hopefully he listens to this episode. But when he wanted to launch his first course, it's called Ecom Success Academy, phenomenal course. He had all of these modules built out. I mean, it was just tons of them. And I told him, I said, Adrian, you're ready to go. Like, seize the moment, take advantage of the opportunity, right? Now is the time. You've got to launch this course. You need to get it to people. People need it. People need help. And now is the time for you to go do this thing. And he just wouldn't do it. Months went by. And he just kept saying, well, this module and that module, and I need to update this and this one, and this graphic. And I said, none of that has anything to do with your ability to be successful with this business. And he had to agree with me. And so I gave him a deadline. And I would implore you to do this to yourself. I said, Adrian, January 1st, you're done. I'm taking your course away from you. I'm not letting you have access to edit anything else in it. And you're going to go and sell this course. And once you get feedback from your customers and feedback from your audience, if you want to make some changes, if you want to make some edits, if you want to add a few things here, add a few things there, you can do that. You can always make things better, right? We can strive for greatness, but you can't be perfect. And you're not going to be perfect right out of the gate. And if we sit around waiting for perfection, what we do is we wait forever and we never do anything. And so finally, after this massively long fight and struggle, I'll never forget, I was sitting on the beach in Destin, Florida, and I was sitting beside him. I said, Adrian, you're going to make a lot of money off this. And a lot of people are going to make a lot of money because of this training. And I'm going to be the reason that it all happens, because I'm going to be the one that makes it happen and stops you from hurting your own self. And sure enough, I put the brakes on him. January 1st, he released his program to a multiple $1 million release. Today and to date, I can't tell you, I don't know the exact numbers, but that course has done in excess of $30 million in sales. Students who have taken that course post regularly in his student Facebook groups, where they've done millions of dollars in sales. I saw one lady just post the other day that she finally hit $1 million in sales. All because of the education Adrian gave, all because of the imperfect education that Adrian provided in that course. So you see, if he had let perfection stall him, so many people would be so worse off right now, including him, because they wouldn't have the education, they wouldn't have the knowledge, they wouldn't have the course, because he was too busy trying to make it too perfect. But you see, he was great. He had greatness. He knew how to pivot. He knew how to make changes. He knew if something happened, he could adapt. And there was no problem he couldn't solve other than the one problem of striving to be perfect before ever doing anything, right? So, important lessons. Millionaires, multimillionaires are made, right, from people who are not perfect, and from ideas and strategies and techniques and whether it be courses or or specific businesses that are not perfect, right? And those people, they're just there, they're striving for greatness. They want to be great. They want to be better today than they were yesterday. And that's okay. That's awesome, right? Having that fire lit under you to always do better the next day than the day before, that's great. But you've got to take the action to get started, right? You can't be one of those sideline entrepreneurs where you're watching the game but you're never in it, right? And a lot of times people use the excuse of it's not perfect yet, to stand on the sideline and watch other people play a completely imperfect game and succeed all the while. So my message for you now, is don't worry about being perfect. Just strive for greatness. If you enjoyed this episode of the Unlock Success Podcast, please make sure to join me next week for another episode of the Unlock Success Podcast, where my goal is always to help you think a little differently, think outside the box, and be a successful entrepreneur. I'll see you next week.